Does an ex-Hearthstone player know Hearthstone cards? Let's find out. When was the last time you played Hearthstone?
I quit right after Demon Hunter came out.
So that was Ashes of Outland. So you missed about almost 2 years of Hearthstone.
All right, this is a mage?
This is a mage and rogue card.
Oh, it's dual class. Okay. One thief, combo, discover a mage spell, and it's a 1/2. Interesting. So that means that rogue gets access to mage spells.
Yes, and mage can play it to just generate another mage spell if they want.
Oh, that's really hard. I feel like the stat line is bad. I think 2/1 is better than 1/2, right?
Generally, yes. That means the 1 mana card can trade up.
I feel like this card would be pretty bad in mage, but it might be somewhat playable in rogue. I think that's what I'm gonna go with. It seems unplayable almost in mage because you can get like the good mage spells in your deck anyway, but for rogue, getting access to some good mage spells might be pretty good. And combo should be easier to activate in rogue too, right?
This card was really, really good in rogue. It basically saw play the entire time it was in the standard format. Like you said, it's really good for rogue to have access to mage spells because it opens a lot more versatility. Where mage is like, you really need to generate more mage spells. It did see play somewhat in mage, but in rogue, it was very good.
Nice. Okay, this is another dual class. This is Warrior and Paladin.
It's Warrior and Paladin.
Lord Barrow. 3 mana, 3/2. Battlecry. Set the health of all other minions to 1. Death Rattle. Deal 1 to all minions. I feel like... Oh, no, wait. The set the health of all other minions. That's something Paladin does, and a Death Rattle is something that Warrior is good at, right?
This card is basically a quality, if you remember that card.
Yeah.
With Whirlwind into 1 minion.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But it's like a board clear then, because if you can get the Death Rattle on the same turn, it literally clears everything.
Yes.
I feel like this card would be good in Paladin, but not that good in Warrior, because from what I remember, Warrior was already really good at clearing the board with stuff like Brawl. And kill Lord Barrow, it's an instant board clear. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's pretty good in Paladin, but not so good in Warrior.
This card was virtually ran in any single control deck for both classes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This card was also really good in more like mid-range based decks for Paladin. Like you said, Paladin doesn't really have a lot of great ways to just full clear board. You did such a good job there.
Yeah, I used to play a lot before I quit. Like Demon Hunter, I did not like it at all when it came out.
Yeah, Demon Hunter was an experience.
This is Druid.
This is Druid, yeah.
Greybow. 5 mana, 4/6, taunt, Death Rattle. Give a random friendly minion Death Rattle, summon Greybow. I'm gonna say right now that I haven't played Hearthstone like at all. I used to play Battlegrounds when it came out, and I remember from watching Crip, this is a Battlegrounds hero. I think Lord Barrow is too, actually.
They were both cards first, and then they were introduced as Battlegrounds characters.
This seems really, really good, actually. If you have like tokens on board, which if I remember right, Druid was always pretty good with tokens. Like I remember Tree and Druid. So as long as you have minions on the board, when this dies, it will resummon itself infinitely, right? That seems really good. It has taunt too, so it's always gonna be dying and giving the Death Rattle to something else. I think this card is really strong for Druid.
So when this card was revealed, it looked like it was going to be one of the best cards. This card didn't see a lot of play.
Oh, really?
The problem with this card is even like in a token deck, often your board's going to get removed, and spending 5 mana for a 4/6 with taunt isn't good enough. If you are ahead and you can get this card in play, it is amazing. Chance of you actually getting to that position was not likely enough. There's also just better stuff to do at 5 mana. Yeah, this card actually did not see a ton of play.
That surprises me. Dark Moon Tonk. Is that a typo in the card name?
No, that's what the card's called.
All right. So this is Hunter. 7 mana, 8/5 mech. Okay, I remember Mech Hunter from Boomsday. Death Rattle, fire 4 missiles at random enemies that deal 2 damage each. I don't know if there are any Death Rattle synergies, but if there are, I'm gonna say this is very good. If there are no Death Rattle synergies in Hunter, I'm gonna say it's bad. It seems too expensive.
Hunter's biggest problem as an archetype, or just as a class, I should say, is slower decks. Because the nature of its hero power, they don't really want to give Hunter a slow archetype. This card is potentially the biggest meme card that we've ever seen, just straight up.
Okay.
It did see somewhat play. There were decks that did run it, but it was a very niche card. It wasn't good. So Frenzy, if it takes damage and lives, it procs the Frenzy.
So this is Rogue, Efficient Octobot. All right, I'm loving these names for these cards.
I will say the Hearthstone team has gotten really good at designing cards.
So 3 mana, 1/4, Frenzy, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1. That seems like an extremely powerful effect for 3 mana, and you have to activate it. Oh, it has to live. So if your opponent kills this with like a 4 damage spell or 4 damage minion, 4 attack minion, the effect doesn't go off.
Yes, correct.
I feel like that's hard to do in Rogue. Like if this was a Warrior card, it'd be like insane. I can't think of a single good card to activate this in Rogue. I feel like you wouldn't even play a backstab on this, would you? I'm gonna say, because it's Rogue, it didn't see any play really. I'm gonna say it's not great.
So for 3 mana, this card did see play, but this card got nerfed. It used to be 2 mana, and at 2 mana, this card was uber broken.
Oh my God.
So Rogue did have multiple ways to proc this with other cards that were released. This card saw virtually non-stop play at 2 mana, and at 3 mana, it did see play. Currently, it does not.
I remember a card called Emperor Thaurissan, if I'm remembering correct, which was like a lot more expensive, but saw play everywhere.
That was a 6 mana 5/5. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of the cards in your hand by 1. That was released in 2015. That was 7 years ago at this point. You can see how far the power creep has come.
Now they just put it on a 2 mana card. Yeah, okay, I can see
Yeah.
it.
4 health is extremely hard to deal with. So you could drop this technically on turn 2 and your opponent will not answer this card.
Yeah, that makes sense. Far Watch Post. 2 mana, 2/3. This is neutral. Can't attack after your opponent draws a card. It costs 1 more. That's interesting. So this just sits there and then you gotta hope that your opponent doesn't remove it while they draw cards to make them cost 1 more.
Yep. It still does damage if they hit it with a minion.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm trying to compare this with, would this see play in Runeterra? I don't think it would. I think it would see 0 play in Runeterra. I think it'd be one of the worst cards in the game. So I'm based off of that, I'm gonna say that it's not very good in Hearthstone either, just because Hearthstone is even less interaction. At most, 1 card gets increased by 1 mana, but you're using a card from your hand. I think that's not good.
Fun fact, this card was also nerfed. It used to be a 2 mana 2/4. Quite like the Octobot, at 4 health, this card was extremely annoying to deal. You think to yourself that this card is really easy to remove. If you do not have a card that spot removes this immediately, you are probably getting a lot of mana increase. You played this card against the minion based deck and they don't have a spell to immediately remove this card's nuts. 4 health, it was game winning on its own. If you play this on turn 2, it could just win the game.
That's crazy. I would never expect it. It feels like you're just putting a card in your deck that essentially does nothing and you just gotta hope that your opponent can remove it.
You brought up the point of uninteractive. This card made games uninteractive. A 2 mana minion going to 3 is a 50% increase in mana. That's insane. So that could just win you the game on its own.
Wow. Okay, this is Shaman, 4 mana, 3/6. Sucker hook. They're good. At the end of your turn, transform your weapon into one that costs 1 more. I feel like this should actually be super good because weapons use durability, right? I'm assuming this is how it works. You equip a weapon, you attack with it loses 1 durability, and then it transforms, and you basically get the durability back because you get a new weapon.
Yeah.
That seems broken to me, actually. You like never run out of weapons, and since they transform into one that costs 1 more, eventually you're gonna get to some like insane weapon. This card seems very, very strong to me. It's like good stats too. 3/6. I mean, not great, but it's like that's pretty vanilla, I think. It seems good to me.
All right, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I have never seen this card get played.
Oh my god. No way.
I don't think I've ever seen the effect go off. The problem with it is Shaman has to not only have a weapon for this to be good, they also have to have this. The effect can be very powerful, especially because you could transform your weapon to any weapon that costs 1 mana more. It doesn't have to be a Shaman weapon.
Okay, yeah, because this card has to stick around on the board, I can kind of see it, but I was expecting this to be very good. This is a Paladin hero, 7 mana, Lightforge Cariel. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemies. Okay, so that's Consecration.
Yep.
Equip a 2/5 immovable object. And that is a weapon, 2/5. This doesn't lose durability. Your hero takes half damage rounded up. And the hero power is give a random minion in your hand +4/+4. Wow. It feels like this card combines like so many effects from cards that Paladin has all into like 1 hero card. I wonder what kind of Paladin deck you would play this in. I don't think this goes into aggro or hand buff. Does Paladin still have decks with like a lot of Divine Shield?
Yes.
Because that's like premium. This actually seems very good. Also because of that effect where your hero takes half damage. I feel like even without that weapon, this card might already see play because you have like a board clear when you play this and then a really good hero power. And then there's a weapon that you have for the rest of the game. And it has an effect that you take half damage. Yeah, this seems pretty broken actually. This seems really, really good.
This is a card that I think a lot of people don't actually consider when they're talking about nerfs. But this card's very powerful. You don't even need the deal 2 damage to all enemies. The weapon itself should be 7 mana.
Honestly,
the weapon
yeah.
is so powerful. The counterplay to this card is obviously weapon removal. Like if you do not have weapon removal, the game becomes so much harder for your opponent.
I have one question though. Who the hell is Cariel?
The year that this card came out, they did something called the Mercenaries. So in Forged and the Barons, which was the first expansion of the year, they introduced 10 mercenaries for all the classes.
All right, Iron Deep Trog. This is a 1 mana 1/2. After your opponent casts a spell, summon another Iron Deep Trog. This reminds me Goblin versus Gnomes or something. And then people were like, Trogzor is the most insane card ever printed. And now we have an Iron Deep Trog. This one is a little better than Trogzor because it's a 1 mana card. And Hearthstone has a coin too. Kind of makes it hard to use the coin, I guess, if your opponent plays it on turn 1 and you have to coin. This is pretty average. This seems like it's an okay card in like some more aggressive decks maybe. It's gonna be pretty unplayable outside of that.
This card sees play in almost every single aggro deck.
Okay.
It turns out when your opponent's trying to remove this, and if they can't, they have to like, let's say coin to get a removal, you just generate another one. This card also got nerfed. It used to say after your opponent casts the spell, summon another copy of this card, which means it would keep any form of buffs or enchantments on this card when it summoned another one. This card was turbo broken when it was released.
I went full Trogzor on this one. I was way off.
When you said it was unplayable, I was bursting out laughing.
Proving Grounds. Summon 2 minions from your deck, they fight. For 6 mana. I remember a spell from Paladin that would summon minions from each deck and fight each other.
Yeah, there was a card called Duels.
And that card as far as I remember, was terrible. This seems really bad because you have 2 minions that fight each other.
There are a bunch of minions that you can kind of cater your deck to make this card. Keyword called dormant. When it summons it, you can't actually interact with it. You could actually summon a really big guy and a dormant minion, and they don't actually fight. And you just summon 2 minions for 6 mana. But this card didn't see play.
That's really interesting though, because I do remember, because I quit shortly after Demon Hunter, I remember the dormant keyword. This is a shaman card, 6 mana Snowfall Guardian, 3/3 Battlecry, freeze all other minions, gain +1/+1 for each frozen minion. So whatever this freezes with the Battlecry, they get +1/+1. So the bigger the board, the bigger this thing is. I played Hearthstone the most during Naxxramas and Goblin versus Gnomes, and I remember Freeze Mage. I feel like if Shaman has any kind of like good burn spells, this would literally just do that exact same thing. So if there is like a way to abuse this, I feel like this card is like actually could be one of the best cards in the game, depending on if they can support it or not.
Yeah, so this card I would describe as very unfun to play against.
Yeah.
Against any board-centric deck, this card can just win you the game. There's another card that repeats the last battle cry you played. So you can play this card and then play that.
Wait, so that's like 4 times you can do this in total?
And there is burn from Shaman. So this card is good.
Yeah, I can see that. Wow. That sounds so frustrating to play against.
You did pretty good, actually. That's awesome.